By now, most of you have either read about this story or seen this horrific video.
Come on. There you go. Busted his lip.
Oh my God! Look at what you did to him!
Now, the story is this was a doctor who was just trying to get home to cover a shift at a hospital. And they put this guy on the plane knowing that they had overbooked the plane. And in fact, they overbooked it not from customers, but in this particular case, they overbooked it with airline employees who needed to get to another city in order to catch a flight or work a flight to another city. This is absolutely horrific, and it happens a lot. Now, airlines have been doing this since the 80s. I think it was American Airlines that actually invented the practice of overbooking. They quantified that they can make a lot of extra money by rolling the dice and looking at past stats on how many people actually make a flight, so that even though if somebody doesn't make a flight, they still charge that person, yet get another fee from having that seat booked. If the flight goes out full, they can say we made 103% revenue on the flight. It's time for my 2 cents. Now, that guy who they dragged off the plane, to me, is a hero. He stood his ground against those guys, those security officers. And that security officer that dragged him off the plane, I hope he gets charged with assault. I know they put him on leave while they work it out, supposedly, but they're not going to change their practices unless enough people raise a stink about this practice. Now, as bad as airlines are, and they are bad, hotels are even worse. Hotels have been doing this for a very, very long time. Just because you have a reservation at a hotel doesn't mean you actually get that room. And it's just like airlines. Now, I used to be a hotel manager. I've been working in hotels since I was a teenager. And it was always a dream of mine to manage a hotel. And when I became a hotel manager, it was like a dream come true. It's a wonderful gig. I worked in some of the nicest hotels in Southern California. I'm talking Ritz-Carlton, Four Seasons. I even worked in Hollywood for a little while at one of those small but intimate hotels on Sunset Boulevard that had a clientele that most hotels would die for. I have serviced some of the most amazing people in the world. I've serviced presidents and kings and stars of stage and screen, and musicians and models and foreign dignitaries and writers and some of the most amazing people the world has ever known. I even was the AFOM concierge during the Vanity Fair party at one of these hotels in Hollywood after the Oscar party, which was one of the greatest nights of my life. I even met Donald Trump that night. I remember very distinctly. It was him and Jerry Jones, another billionaire. They were out on the street waiting for their limousines to come by. And I went out and I was schmoozing the guests, thanking them for coming. And we all ate In-N-Out burgers together. They had an In-N-Out truck on the side of the road giving In-N-Out hamburgers to all the guests of the Vanity Fair party as they were waiting for their limousines. And I remember distinctly, I showed Donald Trump my fake Trump branded watch. And he laughed at it. He thought it was funny. That, of course, was before he became president. And my experiences of meeting these people, sometimes they would stay multiple times, and you kind of develop a little friendship with them. Those are experiences that I wouldn't give up for the world. And that's why I loved being a hotel manager. Every hotel I worked at had this policy of overbooking. And it ruins vacations, it ruins business trips, it ruins business meetings, it ruins people's agendas, people's lives. And there have been many instances where people really get upset about it. I've even had one instance where I couldn't book this gentleman into a room. I told him there's no room, sorry. And he went out to his car and waited for me to get off of work and followed me through the parking lot wanting to kick my ass. It was very dangerous, and at that hotel there was no security to protect me. There was even one instance where I quit a job. I told my boss, I said, look, if you overbook me on New Year's Eve, I will quit. And sure enough, New Year's Eve came, they oversold the hotel, which means I would have to send some people away who were not going to have a room that night. They're going to have to sleep in their cars because all the other hotels were full. And I said, look, I'm sorry, and I quit. And I don't know how they got through the night, but they did it without me. I can deal with a nasty guest. It comes with the territory. But one of the things that I absolutely hated about hotels is that they overbook their rooms. Now, just like airlines, if they sell 105 rooms on a 100-room hotel, they're expecting 5 people won't show up. And let's say those 5 people don't show up. And so you have 5 no-shows. Well, guess what? They're still paying for that room. They have to pay a no-show fee, basically the rate of the room. In addition, they have those other 5 people who showed up. So your hotel is 100% occupied, but you're getting 105% revenue for the night. That is an ideal situation for a hotel, and that's what they strive for. Maximize their revenue. So revenue managers who work for the hotel management company, not the owners of the property, they're 2 separate entities. They want to look good to the owners, so they maximize their profits by doing this overbooking policy, and in aggregate over a quarter or a year they can show an additional 1 or 2% in revenue. The owners of the hotel don't care because they don't have to deal with the customers. They're not the ones in charge of managing the property. The management companies are. And just like airlines, the sole purpose why people do this, why businesses do this, is money, is profit. That's all. You know, hotels like to advertise themselves as great, we're wonderful with customer service. Yet the first thing they do is abandon customer service even before the guest walks through the door. And that reason, more than any other, is why I left the industry and why I moved on to something else. And I was good at my job. I loved my job. I was passionate. I worked long hours. I sacrificed it because hotel managers don't make a whole lot of money compared to other professions that you can do. It was awesome. It was so much fun. The most fun I've ever had in a job. To the point now where just about every hotel brand in America has the practice of overbooking. And they can get away with it for a number of reasons. They all obviously say we have to do it because we have to make as much money. That's what we're in business for, is to make money. I get that part. But you don't do it at the expense of paying guests. That is wrong. And hotels will lie to you, flat out. I've had owners tell best friends who are coming to stay, sorry, we had a pipe break in one of our rooms and we can't let you stay there. We had a guest that was sick, and because of California innkeepers laws, if they're sick, we cannot kick them out. They are entitled to stay an additional night. So if you get there late at night and they give you some line like that, call them out on their bullshit, raise a stink. It won't do anything, but then what you should do is go home and write something on Expedia.com or Hotels.com or review a very negative, nasty review, and they'll stop doing it. If you look at a company like Ritz-Carlton, who I worked for, a fantastic hotel, or my favorite, probably one of the best, they actually do the overbooking as well. It's unfortunate. But one thing about Ritz-Carlton is that the reason why they charge so much money is that they have such a great reputation. If that reputation gets soured in any way, then they can't charge the kind of money that they do per night. It's a little known fact that every employee of a Ritz-Carlton, I don't care if you are the top manager or dishwasher, you are authorized, without question from a manager, to spend up to $2,000 per day per guest just to make that customer happy. Why? The hotel's willing to take a loss as long as they keep their clientele happy. Well, one way to piss them off is to walk the guests. And if the guests know what's really going on, they'll stop walking people. So a couple of tricks on how not to get walked. Number one, check in early. You know, if you check in after 5, 6 o'clock when housekeeping staff goes home, they've done what they call blocking the house, which means they've already signed all the rooms to the rest of the guests. And they've predetermined who they're going to end up walking at the end of the night if everyone actually does show up for their rooms. Also, if you use an aggregating website such as Expedia or Travelocity or Trivago or any of these other ones, and you're trying to get the lowest rate possible, well, they rack and stack guests based on how much money they're spending per night. Rooms are sold for all different prices. They have what's called the rack rate, which is the ideal rate for a room, and then they discount it from there. And Expedia is what they call a clearinghouse, where all the rooms that they haven't sold, or a percentage of the rooms they want to give to Expedia to sell, they can sell at a discounted rate just to fill up, because they'd rather have rooms filled at a discounted rate as opposed to not being filled at all and getting no revenue for that room for the night. If you book on an aggregating website, you are more likely to be walked because you're paying a lower rate. If you book on the website itself, the management website yourself, say you stay at a Marriott, book on Marriott.com, you're going to pay a little bit more, but chances are you'll be one of the last ones that have been identified as being walked. And this is something I do every time as an ex-hotel manager. I call ahead and I talk with the front desk. And I tell them, look, my name is this, I have a reservation, I'm coming in at this time, do not give my room away. But I say it obviously very nicely and I charm them. I ask them their name. How's your day going? You know, if you're friendly to them, they're going to want to treat you nicely. If you're rude to them, chances are you're going to be one of the ones that are walked. Nobody wants to service guests that are rude or impolite. There are other practices that hotels do that are strictly for profit. Another one that really pisses me off is called the resort fee. This is a new practice that you've seen in the last 10 years or so. And in some cities it's rampant, like in Las Vegas. It seems like every hotel has a resort fee. This is bullshit. It's nothing but a profit line item. There's no actual expense that goes against that revenue and a P&L. And the reason why they do it is so that they can advertise a rate that's cheaper and more competitive against the other hotels in an area, yet still maintain rate integrity and a what they call RevPAR, revenue per room, at a higher rate. It is purely profit, and they will lie to you. They'll say, oh, this is for the Wi-Fi, or this is for the gym, or the pool. Well, you know, 90% of business guests and even vacationing guests don't even use the pool. They don't use the gym. So why are you paying that fee? Why are you forced to pay that fee? It's just, it's a very dishonest practice. So if I find out that a hotel has a practice of walking guests, I boycott it. I don't go. Now, chances are they're not going to tell me. There are some hotel chains in the Northwest I heard of that actually advertise, we don't overbook. Those are great. You should patronize those businesses. If a hotel has a resort fee, I don't pay it. I don't stay at that hotel. They always try to make me... you know, when I check in, they'll say, well, there's a $35 resort fee that you have to pay. And I say, I'm not paying it. And they say, well, you have to if you want to stay here. And then I say, all right, I'm not staying here. The problem is if you're at the front desk, you're within the no cancellation time frame. So they're going to get your money anyways, and they just screw you that way. Again, this practice is wrong. It forces the employees to lie to the guests. Management forces the poor guy at the front desk to actually come up with a story and lie to the guests when they're coming up. They should just be honest and say, look, we overbooked the hotel. Sorry, you're gone. But they won't say that because that would bring this whole overbooking scheme to light. That's why this dude on United Airlines is kind of a hero to me, because now everyone's talking about it. They're talking about the airlines doing it. I think we should also talk about the hotels doing it, and we should outlaw this practice. I think if you have a reservation, hotels should honor those reservations. If you have an airline ticket to go someplace, there's a reason why you picked that time to get to your destination. You have a funeral to go to. You have a business meeting that's scheduled for a certain time. You're on vacation. You want to maximize the amount of time you're spending at your destination. There's so many reasons, and for them not to care just pisses me off. So don't stop talking about it. Keep talking about it. Keep complaining about it. Tell the hotels, tell the airlines, you're not going to stand for this. And if you practice this, I'm not going to patronize your business. If enough of us do this, we might be able to change this policy for the better for everyone. Thank you for listening to my rant on the subject. Again, I loved being a hotel manager. I loved working in the industry, but this one thing was really the reason why I left the industry as a whole, because it is indicative of a dishonest business and a dishonest industry, and I didn't want to be associated with that.